You're suffering because you expect too much from everything. The Stoics figured out that lowering your expectations is the secret to an easier life. And here's why. You expect people to be reliable. You expect life to be fair. You expect things to go smoothly. You expect others to care about you as much as you care about them. You expect hard work to be rewarded. You expect honesty to be valued. And every single one of these expectations is setting you up for constant disappointment and suffering. The Stoics understood something that modern culture completely rejects. Lower expectations don't mean you're giving up or being negative. They mean you're being realistic, and that realism is what makes life actually easier. Not easier because challenges disappear, but easier because you stop adding unnecessary suffering on top of those challenges. So why do high expectations make life harder? Because they create a constant gap between what you expect and what actually happens. You expect someone to text back immediately, they don't, and you're upset. You expect your day to go smoothly, something goes wrong, and you're frustrated. You expect people to appreciate your effort, they don't, and you're hurt. The expectation creates the suffering, not the actual event. Marcus Aurelius started every day by reminding himself that he'd encounter difficult people, unexpected problems, and things that wouldn't go his way. He deliberately lowered his expectations about how the day would unfold, not because he was pessimistic, but because he was preparing himself for reality. When difficulties came, he wasn't shocked or disappointed. He expected them, so they didn't disturb his peace. Here's what most people do wrong. They expect the best and then fall apart when reality is different. They expect everyone to be kind and competent. They expect processes to work smoothly. They expect fairness and logic to prevail. These aren't realistic expectations, they're fantasies. And when you build your emotional state on fantasies, you're guaranteed to suffer when reality shows up. Let me show you exactly how lowering expectations makes life easier. First, it eliminates most disappointment. Disappointment is the gap between expectation and reality. The higher your expectations, the bigger that gap, the more you suffer. If you expect everyone to be thoughtful and someone is thoughtless, you're devastated. But if you expect that some people will be thoughtless, when it happens, you're not surprised. You're prepared. Epictetus taught that we should expect things to be as they are, not as we wish them to be. People are imperfect. Life is unpredictable. Things go wrong. These aren't exceptions to how life should work. This is exactly how life works. When you adjust your expectations to match reality instead of fantasy, you stop being disappointed constantly. This doesn't mean you stop wanting good things or working toward them. It means you don't base your emotional well-being on getting them. You want people to be reliable, but you expect that sometimes they won't be. You prefer things to go smoothly, but you expect obstacles. You hope for fairness, but you expect that life is often unfair. This gap between what you prefer and what you expect protects you from constant suffering. Second way lower expectations make life easier is they increase gratitude. When you expect little and receive more, you're grateful. When you expect a lot and receive slightly less, you're disappointed. Same situation, different expectations, completely different emotional experience. If you expect nothing from someone and they do something nice, you're touched. If you expect everything from them and they do something nice, you barely notice because you expected it anyway. Seneca wrote about how we should be grateful for what we have because we could easily have nothing. He practiced reminding himself that everything he had could be taken away. This wasn't depressing. It made him appreciate what he had while he had it. When you expect to keep everything forever, you take it for granted. When you expect that things are temporary and could be lost, you treasure them. Lower your expectations about what you deserve, what you're owed, what should happen. Not because you're worth less, but because the universe doesn't operate on should. It operates on is. When you align your expectations with what is rather than what should be, you stop fighting reality and start appreciating what reality gives you. Third benefit of lower expectations is better relationships. You expect people to be perfect and you're constantly frustrated with them. You expect them to read your mind and know what you need without you saying it. You expect them to prioritize you the same way you prioritize them. These expectations kill relationships because nobody can meet them. People are flawed. They're focused on their own lives. They have limitations. When you expect perfection, you're setting everyone up to disappoint you. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders about accepting people as they are. He knew that people acted according to their nature and circumstances, not according to his expectations of how they should act. When you lower your expectations of others, you can appreciate them for what they actually offer, instead of resenting them for what they don't. This doesn't mean accepting abuse or having no standards. It means expecting that people will sometimes let you down, sometimes be selfish, sometimes fail to meet your needs. When you expect this, you're not devastated when it happens. You handle it calmly. You adjust. You don't build resentment because you weren't expecting perfection in the first place. Fourth way lower expectations make life easier is they reduce anxiety. Anxiety often comes from expecting things to go perfectly and fearing they won't. You're anxious about a presentation because you expect it to go flawlessly. You're anxious about a trip because you expect no problems. You're anxious about a relationship because you expect it to meet all your needs. These high expectations create pressure that manifests as anxiety. When you lower your expectations, you lower the pressure. You're giving a presentation and you expect that you might stumble or forget something. Now there's less anxiety because imperfection is already built into your expectation. You're taking a trip and you expect that something might go wrong. Now delays don't create panic because you anticipated them. You're in a relationship and you expect that it won't be perfect. Now conflicts don't feel like disasters because you knew they'd happen sometimes. Epictetus taught that we should expect obstacles and difficulties, not smooth paths. When you expect challenges, you're mentally prepared. When you expect perfection, you're mentally unprepared, which creates anxiety about anything going wrong. Lower expectations equal better preparation equal less anxiety. Fifth benefit is you become harder to manipulate. Manipulators use your expectations against you. They know you expect fairness, so they make you feel guilty when you set boundaries. They know you expect reciprocity, so they exploit your generosity. They know you expect loyalty, so they leverage that for control. Your high expectations are vulnerabilities they can exploit. When you lower your expectations, you become less vulnerable. You don't expect fairness, so guilt trips don't work as well. You don't expect reciprocity, so you're not trapped by unbalanced giving. You don't expect loyalty, so you're not blindsided by betrayal. You're operating from a more realistic view of human nature, which protects you from people who would use your idealistic expectations against you. Sixth way lower expectations make life easier is they improve your performance. High expectations create pressure that interferes with performance. You expect yourself to be perfect, and that pressure makes you anxious and rigid. You choke under the weight of your own expectations. But when you lower expectations and accept that you might not perform perfectly, you relax. And relaxed performance is usually better performance. Marcus Aurelius had enormous responsibilities as emperor. If he'd expected himself to handle everything perfectly, the pressure would have been paralyzing. Instead, he expected that he'd make mistakes, that some decisions would turn out poorly, that he couldn't save everyone or solve every problem. This acceptance allowed him to do his best without the crippling pressure of impossible expectations. Lower your expectations of yourself, not your standards or effort, but your expectations of perfect outcomes. Expect that you'll make mistakes. Expect that some things won't work out. Expect that you'll have bad days. This doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop adding the suffering of unrealistic expectations to the normal challenges of doing difficult things. Here's what the Stoics really understood about expectations. High expectations don't make life better, they make life harder by creating constant disappointment, anxiety, and suffering. Low expectations don't make you negative or unmotivated, they make you realistic and resilient. You still work hard, you still pursue goals, you still want good things, but you're not emotionally dependent on everything going exactly as you hope. Seneca wrote that expecting the worst prepares you for anything. If you expect that your plans might fail, you're prepared with alternatives. If you expect that people might disappoint you, you're not devastated when they do. If you expect that life will be difficult, you're not shocked by challenges. This preparation through lowered expectations is what creates ease. Not ease in the sense that everything is easy, but ease in the sense that you handle difficulties easily because you expected them. The modern world tells you to expect great things, to believe everything will work out, to maintain high expectations as a form of optimism. But the Stoics knew this advice creates suffering. Optimism based on unrealistic expectations is just a setup for disappointment. Real strength comes from realistic expectations combined with determined effort regardless of outcomes. Start lowering your expectations today. Not about what you'll do or who you'll become, but about how smoothly things will go and how perfectly people will behave. Expect that your day will include problems. Expect that people will sometimes be difficult or unreliable. Expect that things will take longer than planned. Expect that you'll face setbacks and disappointments. This isn't pessimism, this is preparation. When you expect difficulties, they don't throw you off balance. You handle them calmly because you saw them coming. When you expect imperfection, you're not constantly disappointed. You appreciate good things when they happen instead of taking them for granted. When you expect that people will sometimes let you down, you're not devastated by it. You adjust and move forward. Lower your expectations about external things, and you'll find more peace than you ever found. Through high expectations and constant disappointment, you'll still achieve great things, you'll still build meaningful relationships, you'll still have a good life, but you'll do it all with less suffering, less anxiety, and more resilience. That's the power of expecting less.